The disappearance. Riverfall was the kind of town no one remembered unless they had a reason to. Tucked between endless cornfields in the American Midwest, it was so quiet that the sound of a freight train passing through each evening became part of the town's nightly rhythm. People knew one another by face. Doors were locked more to keep out the winter cold than out of fear. Serious crime was something that happened far away, on television. Until that night. Emily Carter was 23 years old. She lived with her mother in a small house on the edge of town. Recently graduated from a local community college, Emily worked part-time for a local delivery service, saving money to eventually move to a bigger city. She wasn't reckless or impulsive. She was careful, always on time. She always told her mother where she was going and when she'd be back. That was why, when the clock crept toward 9 p.m. and Emily still hadn't returned home, her mother felt something was wrong. According to the schedule, Emily had accepted one final delivery at 6 p.m. It was supposed to be quick, about a 15-minute drive, to a newly developed residential area on the south side of Riverfall. The customer ordered a small package. No signature required. Payment completed in advance. Nothing unusual. Emily left the house at 5:40 p.m., wearing a gray jacket, carrying her phone and car keys. A neighbor's security camera captured her pulling out of the driveway, waving to her mother through the window. It was the last time anyone would see Emily Carter. At 7 p.m., her mother called her phone. No answer. At first, she assumed Emily was driving. By 7:30, then 8 o'clock, the calls still went unanswered, ringing, then dropping. A text message was sent. No reply. Unease turned into fear. At 9 p.m., her mother contacted the local police. The call was logged as a low-priority missing person report. Emily was an adult. There were no signs of violence. No history of running away. The dispatcher noted that she might be delayed or staying with friends. The file was marked, pending review. Emily's mother didn't sleep that night. She sat by the window, staring at the empty road, waiting for familiar headlights to appear. They never did. The next morning, Emily's car was found. It was parked neatly along a side road leading into the unfinished housing development. The doors were locked. No signs of forced entry. Her wallet was still in the trunk. No blood. No signs of a struggle. Nothing disturbed. Everything looked too normal. Too clean for a disappearance. Police sealed off the area. A search team was deployed. K-9 units combed the surrounding empty lots. No scent. No drag marks. No suspicious footprints. Emily's phone was last pinged near the vehicle, then went completely dark, as if someone had deliberately turned it off or removed the battery. Within the first 24 hours, local media began reporting the case. Emily's photo appeared on screens in cafes, gas stations, grocery stores. A young woman with a gentle smile and bright eyes. One question echoed everywhere. Where is Emily Carter? But there were small details no one noticed at first. The delivery order Emily accepted that evening came from a newly created account with no transaction history. The delivery address was inside a neighborhood with no residents, houses still framed, many unfinished. The customer paid using a prepaid card. Impossible to trace. Security cameras installed by the property developer just happened to be offline during the exact window Emily arrived. A coincidence? Or something more? On the second day, police interviewed Emily's co-workers. No one recalled anything unusual. Emily hadn't sounded nervous when she accepted the order. She hadn't complained. She hadn't called anyone for backup. Everything appeared routine. But while reviewing internal system data, a young officer paused. The delivery order had been modified twice that same day. Not the address. Just the delivery time. Why? By the third day, volunteers flooded into Riverfall. They searched riverbanks, wooded areas, abandoned sheds. Emily's mother joined every search. pushing herself to exhaustion. Every time someone called her daughter's name, her heart tightened. There was no miracle. That same day, a nearby resident contacted police. He reported seeing a dark-colored van parked near the empty lot the night Emily disappeared. It had been there for roughly 20 minutes. The engine was running, the lights were off. He hadn't noticed the license plate. In Riverfall, vans weren't unusual. The report was logged. No immediate action followed. On the fourth day, the case was officially upgraded from a missing person to a suspicious disappearance. State police joined the investigation. The case file thickened, but so did the contradictions. A traffic camera at a main intersection captured Emily's car turning onto the road leading into the development. There was no footage of it ever leaving. As if it had vanished. Media pressure intensified. The community began asking questions. How could a young woman disappear in broad daylight in a small town filled with cameras? Why were there no witnesses? No solid leads? Then came a detail that made everything darker. A telecommunications technician, reviewing cell tower data, discovered that Emily's phone had briefly connected to another tower nearly 5 kilometers away from where her car was found, shortly before the signal disappeared completely. The phone had moved. But how? And why hadn't local police received this information sooner? By the time the lead reached the case investigator, it was nearly the end of the 5th day. Riverfall no longer felt safe. People locked their doors earlier. Parents didn't let their children go out at night. Rumors spread quickly. Some said Emily ran away. Some said she was kidnapped. Others believed she was already dead. No one had proof. And while the town drowned in fear, whoever was behind Emily Carter's disappearance remained completely silent. No ransom demands. No contact. No trace. A silence so unsettling it felt deliberate, as if attention had never been the goal. By the end of the 7th day, the case was escalated. A federal agent was asked to review the entire file from the beginning. As he read through the initial reports, one realization sent a chill down his spine. This was not a random disappearance. It wasn't impulsive. Everything was too clean. Too calculated. Emily Carter didn't vanish on her own. And this was only the beginning. The hunt. By the 8th day since Emily Carter vanished, Riverfall was no longer a quiet town. Streets that were once nearly empty now saw patrol cars passing through nonstop. People looked at one another with suspicion. Conversations on front porches grew shorter. Voices lower, as if speaking too loudly might invite something bad to happen. Special Agent Daniel Brooks arrived early on the morning of Day 8. He wasn't local. Brooks had handled multiple complex abduction cases across several states. He didn't bring a large task force. There was no press conference. No media appearance. The very first thing Brooks requested upon arriving in Riverfall was the complete case file, from the first emergency call made by Emily's mother to every blurry surveillance clip local police had overlooked. Brooks wasn't looking for a suspect. He was looking for mistakes. He spent nearly 10 hours inside a small room at the police station. Reading every report, replaying every interview. The more he read, the clearer one thing became. This case wasn't lacking data. It was lacking connection. Each clue stood alone, isolated, almost as if someone had deliberately created multiple investigative paths. Just enough to distract anyone trying to see the whole picture. That evening, Brooks ordered a full reconstruction of Emily's movements on the day she disappeared, minute by minute. No assumptions, no theories, only verifiable data. The moment she left her house. The moment her car appeared on traffic cameras. The moment her phone signal vanished. And most importantly, the 17-minute gap where no data existed at all. Those 17 minutes became the center of the investigation. On Day 9, Brooks returned to the unfinished housing development with a small team. This time, They weren't searching for physical evidence. They were studying how the space functioned. Entry and exit routes, blind spots, camera coverage. Brooks stood for a long time at the turn where Emily's car had been found. He noticed something critical. From that exact position, anyone standing nearby would be completely hidden from view by the unfinished structure behind the road. A perfect visual obstruction, not hidden enough to draw suspicion, but enough to disappear for several minutes. A young officer asked, if this was an abduction, why didn't they leave any traces? Brooks replied simply, because they didn't abduct her. They received her. The room went silent. On day 10, Brooks ordered a review of all similar disappearances within a 300-kilometer radius over the past 3 years. Not to find exact matches, but to identify patterns. 3 cases surfaced. 3 young women. All disappeared within short time frames. All were alone, either delivering goods or traveling for work. And all shared one disturbing detail: no ransom demands. The cases had never been linked. Brooks requested the original files. While reading them, one detail made him pause for a long time. In all 3 cases, the victims had received a very brief phone call from an unknown number shortly before they disappeared. No voicemail, no call longer than 10 seconds. Just enough time to confirm that the person would arrive at a specific location. Emily Carter had received such a call as well. It happened at 4:52 p.m., less than an hour before she left home. Local police initially believed it was a delivery confirmation call. Brooks disagreed. The delivery company's system didn't use manual phone calls. All confirmations were handled through the app. That call was unnecessary. But it had a purpose. On day 11, Brooks shifted the investigation in a new direction. Instead of searching for the person who took Emily, he focused on those who prepared the operation. He ordered background checks on individuals with experience in security, logistics, telecommunications, anyone working in those fields in or around Riverfall. The list was longer than expected. But Brooks wasn't rushed. People who understand how to erase traces often understand how to blend in. That afternoon, a new lead emerged. A gas station clerk located roughly 2 kilometers from the construction site reported that on the night Emily disappeared, 2 men stopped to buy water and snacks. Security footage showed them wearing baseball caps and medical masks. Nothing unusual, except it was summer. And there were no health advisories at the time. They paid in cash, spoke very little, left in under 2 minutes. Brooks requested the original footage. He watched it repeatedly, not to see their faces, but to study how they moved, how they stood, how they scanned their surroundings. One of the men consistently positioned himself slightly to the right, subtly blocking the camera's view of the other. A habit, not a reflex. On day 12, Brooks decided to apply pressure. He authorized the media to release details about the dark-colored van mentioned by a witness. Not because he believed the van was real, but because he wanted to observe reactions. The description was vague: old model, no license plate, no clear identifiers. The story spread fast. Tip lines were flooded with reports of suspicious vans. Police worked through the night sorting information. Among hundreds of calls, one stood out. An anonymous man claimed he had rented out a storage warehouse to a stranger for 2 weeks. The renter paid in cash, asked no questions. But what made the landlord uneasy was one specific request: no cameras. And no nearby neighbors. The warehouse was located about 40 kilometers from Riverfall. On day 13, Brooks and a small team approached the site. No sirens, no lights. They moved in silence. The warehouse was empty. No furniture, no signs of long-term occupation. But near one wall, they found something. A fresh scratch mark. On the floor, a piece of rope, cleanly cut. Not torn, not frayed, severed with a sharp blade. No DNA. No fingerprints. Yet Brooks wasn't disappointed. He allowed himself a faint smile. This was the first thing they'd found that someone had clearly tried to erase. And that made it evidence. On day 14, Brooks traced the rope, not by product code, but by fiber structure. The analysis revealed it was a type commonly used in commercial freight transport. Not widely sold at retail stores. Not easy to acquire casually. The suspect pool narrowed. Pressure mounted, not just on the perpetrators, but on the investigation itself. National media picked up the story. The same question echoed everywhere. How does a young woman disappear without leaving a trace? Brooks remained silent. He knew silence was harder to predict than any public statement. On day 15, a mistake was made. A vehicle was caught speeding by a traffic camera near the warehouse, its timestamp matching the moment Brooks and his team had left the site. The driver didn't know he had just entered a watch list. When summoned for questioning, the man appeared overly calm, too cooperative. He had a perfect alibi. But Brooks noticed something small. The man knew too much. He referenced details the media had never released. The interview ended without charges. But Brooks documented everything carefully. That night, Brooks received an anonymous message on his work phone. No threat. No demand. Just a single line. You're looking in the wrong direction. Brooks didn't delete the message. He saved it. Because for the first time since Emily disappeared, someone had chosen to make contact. The hunt had truly begun. But Brooks understood one thing clearly. When a perpetrator is confident enough to message the investigator, it means they believe they're still one step ahead. And if Brooks was wrong, Emily Carter would never be found.